God. Oh, still a fever. I am gonna need to make at least one more sacrifice to the gods in the wood this afternoon. Oh God, please send me a willing victim. Oh, hello. Welcome back, traveler. How are you doing? Are you doing anything this afternoon? You're free. Oh, thank gods above. Are you here for tea though? Yeah, hurry, get your butt in. You must have heard the plague that is upon the streets of the town. It's been rampant. Yeah, it did catch me, unfortunately. We're doing leeching in the back for $5. Do you want in? What tea did you want? The usual? We actually do have some new imports in this month, if you would like. So we have our good old-fashioned turmeric root that everyone loves. Everyone loves the turmeric tea. But if you're not feeling it, are you feeling ailing or are you feeling particularly strong, healthy, and capable today? A touch of the fever? Okay. Maybe not this one. I think maybe, actually, can you just say off for a second? Okay, no, maybe this one. This one may have some side effects, namely drowsiness, confusion, not really knowing where you are. Okay, there we go. But don't worry, I can walk you home after. Can we take a shortcut through the forest? Perfect, it's really blooming this time of year. I'm so excited to show you my flowers. Have you read any new books recently on your travels? Oh, okay, well, I can tell you mine if you want while you drink your tea. Yeah? Okay, so this is just gonna steep for a little bit and then I can pour it for you. Okay. I did DNF actually a few books this month. Well, honestly, at the Book Nook, I've been just feeling like I want a little bit more sci-fi in my life these days, but I did DNF 2 sci-fi-ish books. The first one is called Aisle 9. I just didn't really like it, to be honest. This was supposed to be a really funny satire on the department store, on the like massive, sprawling, crazy, sells everything under the sun department store, but I just found that the writing was a bit overdone, and on top of that I just didn't like the audiobook narrator's voice. And then the other book that I DNF'd in March, is it March? Oh my gosh, was Hum by Helen Phillips. This one I was really hoping that I was going to enjoy so much because again, it's a sci-fi-ish set in the future a little bit, but it's a future that's not too far off. It's where pretty much all labor, except for like some very specialized labor, has been replaced by AI robots known as hums. And we follow this woman who is really down on her luck. She's not having a particularly easy time in her relationship, in her family life, and so she makes the decision to get this surgery that is going to alter her face so that no surveillance can detect her, because surveillance is such a big part of this world. I actually made it quite a decent way through Hum, but it was boring. It was actually really boring. I just wasn't getting into the book. I found the writing would kind of just stall out, and the pacing of the book would stall too on like these random little excursions that we would make, and I just really was not very interested. My sci-fi appetite has not been particularly satiated this month, although I did read one really good sci-fi, so I'm definitely going to tell you about that one. Okay, I think your tea is ready. If there's ever any new kinds of tea that you would like to see at the Book Nook Inn, don't hesitate to let me know, because I know that the books have been crying out to find their exact right tea companions. So a few of the patrons here as well have been asking for a matchmaking service in which the books that they're reading get matched to a particular tea. So very anxious to get that series rolling. So if you want to come to our matchmaking night between tea and book, yeah, you might make it there. Yeah, that one is creamy royal Earl Grey. Really good. I'm gonna make a cup for myself too while I'm at it. Magic. Don't tell anyone I have this power. Oh my god, I duplicated it. Hi everyone. I am so sorry that the Book Nook is a place of illness this afternoon. I hope you can relax. Nevertheless, I'm gonna try my best to overcome the frog in my throat and tell you all about the books I've been reading in March. Me versus the flu medication coursing through my veins right now. So let's get rolling before I start rolling on the floor asleep. Oh my God, I'm sweating. Let's talk. The first book that I read in March, I actually think I finished it in February and I completely forgot to tell you about it. That's my bad, is Angels Before Man. Look at this cover. Look at her. She's really stunning. Oh my goodness. Angels Before Man is by Raphael Nicolas, and this is a retelling of The Fall of Satan. Actually, there's a few things in here. I never ended up giving this a rating because frankly, this specific copy that I have, like, I can't lie to you, like, this was just a mess. This was just a straight up mess, but I didn't know that the copy that I bought is not, like, it's not the only one. There's actually another edition out, which I think has been traditionally published, although I think I'm not sure if the traditionally published editions of this book have since been pulled and now it's being self-published again. I don't really know what's going on. I don't know. It seems like there's a very complicated publishing thing happening with this book. I don't really know. But I think there was an edited version, because if this one had an editor, fire them. It was such a big mess to read in terms of just like grammar and the English language and pacing and plotting. I think it really needed a thorough edit. So if anyone knows where I can find an edited version, because this book is also part of a series, I think this is the first one in the series, I would maybe consider going on with it. But just the copy that I had, which I didn't know about when I bought it, and when I did buy it, this was the only copy that I saw that you could purchase. This was really hard to get through simply because of the way that it was written. I was hoping when I encountered my first like topsy-turvy sentences that didn't know who they were or where they were going, I was like, ooh, maybe we're doing something quite cool with language because we're in heaven. Humans haven't been created yet, but sadly that was not the case because things that were being said were just straight up like so wrong, and that really takes me out of the book. Split into two parts. The first part is a very wholesome slice of life in heaven, following Lucifer as he is created, as he's born. He is the youngest angel in heaven, and he is trying to find out like who he is, what his gift is, because all the angels surrounding him, they're gifted and have affinities towards different things. And you follow him making friends, meeting all the angels, exploring heaven, which some parts of it were interesting, cute, fun, had a lot to say on the nature of identity, finding out who you are, finding out who you belong to, finding out where you fit in, carving out an identity for yourself. And on the other hand, so many parts of it were frankly just so boring. I thought heaven was so boring. I think the first part does get pretty repetitive, but as you go along, you start to obviously see chinks in the paradise. However, as the synopsis says, this is also a retelling featuring a romance, shall we say, a little bit of a relationship that shouldn't be. And I really found it interesting to delve into like the whys of why it shouldn't be, or what the other angels' attitudes in heaven, or God's own attitudes potentially towards this relationship were in this world, between the angel Lucifer and the angel Michael, who is an archangel. This was just not super well done in my opinion. I do know that there's obviously a different version out, which might make it a little bit better, but some of the quotes in here, let me read you some of the quotes, because some of them I was just like, ooh, what else could an angel be but happy? I don't know if I want to put this back on my shelf or not. We shall see what ends up happening with this. I have the feeling I might unhaul this. The next book that I read finally was The Shining by Stephen King. I have a whole vlog on this if you want to watch it. There are massive spoilers in that vlog, but I was so nervous to pick this up because I was like, I don't know if I really love Stephen King. I had read or listened to Carrie previously, really disliked my time with that one, and so I just didn't know if I was like ever ready to pick up another one. But you guys were like, please read The Shining, we really think you're gonna love it, and I did. So thank you so much, because this was like addictive. This was so addictive. This was just a time. And let me tell you, I thought, and I said in the vlog while I was reading it and when I finished it, that like it didn't really scare me in a traditional like, oh my god, I don't want to turn the lights off at night kind of sense. It was more like a deep, just like psychological uncomfortable feeling. However, weeks after finishing this book, I was in Scotland where I got sick, and I went to go to bed at night in the hotel room. I turned off the bedside lamp, and then I was like, oh, I'm starting to think about The Shining because I'm in a hotel. I started to think about a lot of the creepy, scary things in this book, and I just got so freaked out. Just laying there, staring into the darkness, imagining seeing, no spoilers, but imagining seeing Dog Man. Okay, if you've read this, you know what I'm talking about, Dog Man. And I was like, no, I can't do it. I slept with like a couple lights on because I was just like, I cannot, like it really seriously freaked me out. If you haven't heard of this, hotel in Colorado needs a caretaker for the winter because it's going to be closed up. It's not open to guests because the roads get all snowed in and just impassable. And so the new caretaker for this season is this man named Jack Torrance. He has a wife and he has a 5-year-old kid named Danny. I really like this. I like this so much. This is so close to a 5-star feeling for me. I just felt like maybe the ending didn't really stick the landing too much, but Jack is told by the owner of the hotel that the last caretaker went a little bit off of his rocker, succumbed to cabin fever maybe, and before killing himself, he murdered his wife and their 2 children. And Jack is like, no, that's not gonna happen to me. Like, don't worry, I don't have any issues like that. I have been dealing with alcoholism in my past, but I am now sober and I'm off of it. And so he gets the job and he goes with Wendy and Danny to the hotel. What do you think happens? What do you think happens? The absolutely dysfunctional, abusive, just so scary. That's the main fear and fright of the book, is the family dynamic in the Torrance family and the abuse that not only Jack has suffered and he's like repeating on his own family, but this poor 5-year-old kid and Wendy. I just felt so much for Wendy. The book gave me exactly what I just didn't get personally from the film. I loved reading the book a lot more than watching the film, even though I do really like watching the movie The Shining too, of course, but the book just like goes on for pages and pages about the history of the hotel, which is what I was trying to say, that you don't really too much learn in the film as much as you get like a deeper understanding and a deeper exploration of it in The Shining, because that's really what I wanted from it, was to find out about the history of the hotel and why these things are coming out of the walls, so to speak, why the appearance of Danny, the kid who has the ability known as the Shining, because he can maybe prophesy or see things from the past. He has a kind of precognition and the ability potentially to see into the hotel's past. Like, first of all, why does he have that ability? I think that was really interesting to look at it from like a very traumatized child's point of view. This ability to predict the future for me was just like about living with this unpredictable, in this case, parent who Danny just has to be constantly on the lookout for and be like predicting patterns of behavior in order to make sure that he is literally safe. I just literally liked everything about this, and I didn't even mind King's writing. Like, I think his style, at least in The Shining, wasn't my favorite thing ever, but it was just seriously so addictive. And it's like a decently long book, but it just flew by, absolutely flew by. I do want to say, if I had to rate like the scary things in The Shining, the topiary monsters rate the lowest. You have given me, and I always knew this existed, but you have given me my snowy hotel book dreams, and I really enjoyed this. I really did. And this cover too, the coolest covers this month, I think. Like, these are just, it's stunning. So if you have been nervous to pick up your first King, or if you've read King before and you didn't like him, because that was my experience, I would say give The Shining a go, because I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this. And yeah, just deeply uncomfortable, deeply unsettling, definitely brought all of those feelings out, and I was actually really impressed with this. I think this place forms an index of the whole post-World War II American character. Okay, the next book that I read, actually every single book that I read this month was, first of all, from my own shelves, so good, because I'm trying to read everything I own. The only audiobook that I completed in March was The Forever War by Joe Haldeman. Loved this so much. Another 4-star. Shining was almost 5 stars. This was at least like over 4 stars. Joe Haldeman is not a new author to me. I actually read Forever Peace, which is technically the sequel. You can read them out of order, doesn't really matter, although I honestly would have preferred to start with The Forever War. This was so good. This was so good. This was the sci-fi that I was searching for all month. This was just like a phenomenal piece, such a phenomenal piece. There is honestly quite a big theme in this month's wrap up. We have so many books talking to each other, which I always love when that happens, and they always do, but this time it just feels like they're like conversing behind my backs a little bit more. The Shining, a book about snow, Mountains Hotel, which is definitely behind my back, talking to the magic mountain. And then we have The Forever War, which plays a lot with the idea of time dilation, your perception of history, and what you do when like so much time is passing, which is like this is talking to the magic mountain. Everyone is in a party. All these books are going to the coffee shop afterwards when I'm done reading them, and they're talking to each other about everything. Like, this is totally in cahoots with the magic mountain. But The Forever War, before all else, is definitely a Vietnam War novel. This is incredibly powerful, very sneaky. I feel like The Forever War is a little bit of a sneaky sci-fi. So this follows this young, at the beginning of the book, he's young. I think he's like in his maybe he's 25. His name is William, and he has just been drafted to go and fight in the war way out, not on Earth. We're not fighting on Earth. It is a space war way out. All of Earth is going to fight this enemy species. Why are they the enemy? What did they do to get that title? He's going out to fight the Taurans, who are an alien species, and this war has been going on for quite a long time. The War of Relativity has also been going on for quite a long time, because this book is not a long book. It's really not. It's only around 260 pages, so like honestly a pretty short, decently short novel. This book feels like you're in it for forever. It takes forever to read, because the amount of time that passes in these short 260 pages is actually insane. You follow William as he goes back to Earth. Of course, these journeys don't just take like a couple of hours. It's not a couple hours on a plane. He is going through light years and light years away. And by the time he gets back to Earth, so much time has passed. And then you get these like heartbreaking sections. The book does such a good job at following like a soldier trying his best to be reintegrated into society, to learn all of this new lingo, all of this new technology, all of the ways that his home has changed, and maybe like he stayed the same or he's changed in different ways by the time he gets back. On top of that, throughout it all, Joe Haldeman has like honestly a very light, humorous voice, and William is a very like no nonsense, take it as it is, try his best to adapt to any situation kind of character. I really enjoyed following him. And then I don't want to say any more, but like the amount of time that you are in this book, it took me forever to finish. Even though it was on audio, I was just like, what is going on? There are so many sections of the novel. It definitely follows a lot of, I think, the soldiers' feelings coming back to, for example, the United States in the 70s, and all the attitudes that were circulating them and them having to get used to it and just be like, okay, I've been gone, what's changed? That is The Forever War. Enjoyed this immensely, highly recommend. Okay, and then I read another favorite of the month. I had a really good reading month. I picked up Under the Glacier by Halldór Laxness. This one I bought in Iceland, and then I went to Iceland in March and I started reading it in Iceland, got to go under a glacier in March, which was incredible, and then I came back home and finished it, and this was fantastic. This was my first Halldór Laxness, not my first Icelandic rodeo. I've read I think 4 books. This is my 4th Icelandic lit piece. I love Icelandic literature. I'm really figuring that out. I think I really love it. I would like to read some more. I'm gonna have some more to show you very, very soon. In the beginning, this starts out as seemingly a very straightforward narrative. This is one of the most interesting books I think I've ever read. And then, yeah, the straightforwardness dissolves into what the absolute hell is going on here. So this, where do I start? I don't know. The way that it's written is so cool, because Under the Glacier is a report being written in progress. It's a work of creation in progress, and you, the reader, kind of get to be witness to that. The report of this 25-year-old emissary. Oh god. The bishop of Iceland is like, yo, we need someone to go out to this rural community, the west of Iceland, and see what the hell is going on with Christianity there. Like, we want someone young, pretty inexperienced, pretty naive, to like just go out, observe with fresh eyes, don't interpret, don't judge, don't, you know, poke too hard, but just go and see what the hell is going on there, because we're getting rumors of this community near Snæfellsjökull that they're doing whack-ass things. These whack-ass rumors include things like the pastor at Glacier, it's just referred to as Glacier because this huge glacier is like, you know, the glacier's here, the little village is here. The pastor at Glacier is not burying the dead. okay. He's just like, I'm not gonna bury the dead anymore. We also have rumors that there was potentially a coffin, something, a box full of, is it a corpse? What is it? It was brought onto the glacier and stored in the glacier. What's that about? What is in there? What are we doing? There's also rumors that the church is nailed shut, that he's stopped attending services, and so there's just all this rumor circulating. And so this young emissary, who we never get to know his name, he refers to himself usually in third person and usually as just MB, so the emissary of the bishop. It's his report. I can't stress to you enough how much of a cutie patootie this young emissary is. He is like, I fell in love. I think I'm in love with this narrator. I really am. I really fell in love with him. He's just so sweet. He's so earnest. He's so just like non-judgmental, taking everything as it comes. And he's also so funny. Probably like unintentionally so, but I just really enjoyed this. What made this so unique is like you get to see his thought process writing this report, which is supposed to be a pretty formal report, I guess, that's going to be sent to the Bishop of Iceland about the state of Christianity. And he's like, I am not qualified for this. Like, I don't even really want to be ordained. I'm not even that much of a believer. I just work here. Beautiful. Like, the conversations are gorgeous. You have parts of the narrative report then being switched to just like conversations where it's like dictation because he's brought a tape recorder. Really, really loved obviously the parts about the glacier because Halldór Laxness chooses to set under the glacier at Snæfellsjökull, if I'm saying that right. Snæfellsjökull, which is, if you know, the setting or the entrance rather to Journey to the Center of the Earth by Jules Verne. He famously sets like the entrance into the bowels of the earth and like the beginning of the novel, and this whole journey location in Iceland has also long been like held as this place of supernatural activity. There's been meetings over the years of people gathering on the glacier. There's been like alien conspiracies. There's so many talks about like this energy that is in the area. And when I was there, I actually got to see the glacier and the mountain. Sadly, just from the plane as I was leaving Iceland, I was sitting on the right side to be able to see Snæfellsjökull, and like it's so cool. Oh my god, so cool. If I ever make it to Iceland again, I will try my best to go there because this was so perfect. The emissary eventually meets the pastor and he's like, what the hell are we doing here, my friend? Like, what is going on? The church is indeed nailed shut. Like, why are you neglecting your duties? It descends a lot into fable. It takes a lot of inspiration from the Icelandic sagas. We meet this woman, Ua, who is the pastor's, who knows? Is she his wife? What's going on? Has she been in the glacier this whole time? This is also in the synopsis, don't worry. But so good, so good. And I just like, you see our narrator getting pulled more and more into the mystery here and becoming less and less impartial, involving himself, maybe feeling that he has some stake in what's going on at Glacier, and it was so good. It was about creation. The pastor remarks like, oh, you talk about creation, but it's still going on. I hadn't heard that it had finished, that God's creation had finished. So just so interesting. Where I had heard this quote somewhere before, but it came back like a little dream. A remarkable mountain. At night, when the sun is off the mountains, the glacier becomes a tranquil silhouette that rests in itself and breathes upon man and beast the word never, which perhaps means always. These next two books, I did film a like kind of daily reading vlog with them, so I'll try not to talk like at length about them that much. But the first one I read was Turn Up the Ocean by Tony Hoagland. This is a collection of poetry. Yeah, my feelings towards reading collections of poetry, like I just really have to be in the right mood for them, but I really liked this one. I really did. I'm really glad I read it. Some of these just hit so hard. This is actually the last collection of Tony Hoagland's poetry that, unless someone goes through, I guess, all of his backlogs, I guess this is the last collection we'll ever see, because these were the poems that he wrote before he died. So a lot of these center around illness, cancer for sure, because I've since learned that he had pancreatic cancer, I believe. So a lot of these deal with like waiting rooms, hospitals, illness, death, and a lot of them they're just so beautiful. They're actually just so beautiful. I really enjoyed my time with this collection, and all I can say is like go and read it if you want, I guess. The title poem, Turn Up the Ocean, is wonderful. Quote of the end of, what is this poem called? This poem's called Success, but just the last couple of stanzas. Oh my goodness. Why don't you tell me about your life for a change? Did you carry it carefully, like a brimful cup of water bound for a particular flower? Or did you keep accidentally turning around to look at something else and slosh it all over the place like me? So this one is going to go very fondly back on my shelf, back into the poetry aisle, and I will definitely be flipping through this in years to come, I know. So I'm really happy I read this. I would really like to read some more Tony Hoagland, and I can highly recommend at least this collection. And then the other book that I read on the same day was actually the World Tour book club pick for March, which was from UAE. So for this one, we got to read Temporary People by Deepak Unikrishnan. So this is a collection of short stories. It does a lot of cool things though. This collection also has illustrations. It has very tiny little snippets. It's kind of like what do I want to call it? It's like a museum, and there is actually one story in here called The Museum. So what this collection focuses on most of all is bringing a light to the people, to the temporary people, like the title suggests, of UAE. All of the foreign workers, temporary workers, people who are brought in to basically just be the country's workforce, to labor for the country, to build all of the huge, futuristic, incredibly large, luxurious buildings that places like Abu Dhabi or Dubai are known for. And it's about the workers who have actually made these things happen. That's what this collection focuses on. I didn't love the author's writing too much, honestly. I really just enjoyed the ideas that he is working with. A lot of these play into magical realism pretty heavily, to talk about certain ideas, to talk about the lives of these people living in a country, because I think 80% I read, 80% of the United Arab Emirates population is temporary workers. There are stories in here about like how companies in different cities in the UAE have started to grow their own workers, like little sheaves of corn, for example. Book 2 is, I think, called Tongue, so Tongue and Flesh. So it's about languages and all the different languages that people speak in the UAE. This is one of those ones. I say this a lot with a number of different books, but it's one of those ones that I more enjoy the fact that I'm like, okay, I can hold it in my hands now that I've read it, and now I can like go and like think and research and read other things. So when I was in it, reading the short stories wasn't too enjoyable, but it's one of those ones where when you come out of it, you're like, I'm so glad I read that. And now I have so much to consider and think about, and this is a really important collection. So I really like this cover design as well. I think this is great. I don't know if Unikrishnan has written anything else, but I will definitely look into it, because so many of these, and I know I'm not supposed to do it with the short story, I'm so sorry, but so many of these I really wanted a full-length novel on just like basically every short story, because I was so into it. My favorites were the one where they grow people, which is called In Mustafa Grew People, and then the one following that, because these stories are tied together, is called The Museum. Those two were fantastic. I am overheating. I'm becoming this cover. Okay guys, and then it finally happened. I finally finished Normal People. Can I have a round of applause? Thank you so much. I have been reading this book for months and months and months. I'll go through a period where I would pick it up, read a bunch of pages, put it down. I started this in the summer of 2024. I started this in the summer of 2024 and I finished it in March 2025. I don't know what was wrong with me. When I picked it up, okay, here I have a lot to, there's just a lot of feelings I have towards this book. When I first picked it up, I picked it up on audio in 2020 or 2021, and I put it down because I just was like, I don't like this, I'm not in the mood for this, I don't want it. When I picked it up in 2024, I was like in the exact right headspace for this book, which is probably the exact wrong headspace. I was incredibly depressed and low and not having a good time, and I read this during like one of the worst weeks of the year for me, like just mood wise, and so I really connected with it because this is not a happy book. No, I don't know, for me it wasn't a happy book. At least Normal People is about two people really, but more than that, it's about the society too, I would argue. But anyway, we follow Connell and Marianne, and they go to the same high school together. So this book opens with Connell and Marianne in high school in a small Irish town. Yeah, so okay, that's when I picked it up, right? When I was just feeling gross, feeling awful, feeling really, really down in the dumps is when I picked it up. And I was like, oh my gosh, this book right now is a mirror, because the people in Normal People, and maybe that just means every single person, is just not happy. They are not thriving, shall we say. I was enchanted by the understanding that I felt this book had for me at a period in my life when I was in high school. So in Normal People, Connell is not as well off as Marianne. His mother is actually the person who cleans Marianne's estate. It's not really a house. She has a big, huge estate, pretty removed from the rest of the small town because her parents are both lawyers, I think. So Connell is like not as well off in financially as Marianne, but he is the much more beloved student at school. Everyone loves him. He's a pretty nice dude. He has so many friends. He is a sportsman, and he's just like, he's very popular. Marianne, on the other hand, while coming from this very well-off family, is completely miserable. She has no friends. She's neglected at home, abused at home, bullied at school. Everyone tells her that she is ugly, just a waste of space, basically. And so she has this awful self-worth, basically. But at the same time, she's very full of contempt for everyone at school, from the teachers to her fellow students to the school system at large. And both her and Connell are actually very intelligent, bookish, academic people. Can they get it together in their mental worlds? No. And a lot of that speaks so much, I think, in Normal People to the society that they live in, for sure. Being in a small town really amplifies, I think, all these societal pressures, especially when everyone is up in each other's business. For the portion where they're in high school, that was actually my favorite portion of the book. I was like, wow, I don't think I've ever seen this version of myself in a book before, because when I was in high school, and not to talk too much about the high school days, okay, does anyone want to go there? Was also incredibly down. I was also incredibly, like Marianne, full of contempt for the system at large. I would go so far, as an example, that on days where we had standardized province-wide testing for, I think it was like mostly focused on either math, or I don't know what the test was even anymore. I don't remember any of it, and that's part of the point, isn't it? But I wrote on the back of every single exam piece of paper, every single piece of paper in the exam booklet, my thoughts exactly to the school board where the tests were being sent. That was how much I was like upset at the environment that I was in, because to me it was a sickening place to be. It's not to say that like I didn't have any good times in high school and that there weren't like great, amazing, wonderful things about it, but for the most part I just felt really alienated. This quote was it exactly: "They have no sense of the school as an oppressive environment." So you might imagine in the novel, these two people from different backgrounds, totally, Marianne and Connell come together and they start to form a relationship. They start to talk, but of course Connell doesn't want his friends to know about it because she is this other being that doesn't fit in and would completely ruin his social standing, or so he thinks. And so they began this relationship in private, in secret. Got probably about 160 pages in the first time that I sat down and read it, and I was suffering the whole time. I was incredibly invested. I was in love with Sally Rooney's writing style. I thought it was so just real. It didn't have to be the most like crazy lines ever. It just had to have like people's real thoughts, emotions, and dialogue, and the way that we express, sometimes very lazily with language, the things that we think, those were all on the page. And so I really liked it. I've since learned that a lot of people really don't, and I can see why, but I really did like it because I was like, oh, that's kind of how people, you know, operate exactly. And then I picked it up and finished it in March, and I found that by the time I reread it, because every time I would come back to this, I would start from the beginning because I'm like, I want to just have the full experience. I want to be able to sit down and read the whole thing over again without like huge gaps in reading it, do you know what I mean? But then I found that by the time I came back to the novel again, I had changed so much as a person, even in the space of however many months, and I was in a much better mental place, and I actually didn't enjoy it as much anymore. I think if I had finished this whole book in the absolute wasteland mindset that I was in the summer, I would have given it probably 5 stars, but coming back to it in I guess early spring, end of winter, with a much, I feel like, just clearer mindset, I didn't like it as much, and I didn't like the ending. I wasn't satisfied with the ending, and I'm not saying that to be satisfied with an ending it needs to make you happy, but it didn't feel like the right ending maybe to me. I won't tell you what I think the right ending is because I don't want to spoil anything about it, but yeah, I found that I wasn't so enamored with the writing anymore. I found that I was getting fed up with both Connell and Marianne, and of course, like you do throughout the whole book, because they just can't get their shit together. But it's hard to get your shit together. It's really hard to get your shit together and change as a person. And yeah, I found that what I liked about it in the end the most, when I finished it as like a person who was just in a much better headspace and a clearer headspace and could think maybe a little bit more objectively about the way that these two characters felt, I found that what I enjoyed most about the book was to talk about literature, was to talk about books, because this is a book that does follow two people who are really in love with reading, especially Connell. I really loved following his giving way and letting himself into the world of literature, because that was something that I also went through, going from high school to university and being like, oh my god, like I'm not going to study literature, what the hell am I going to do? And there's so much talk about that as well, so I really related to that, and just quotes about him like being like, I actually love books, and I don't care what anyone thinks of that. And like reading as just everything about reading that it talked about, I was so incredibly into these conversations. It feels intellectually unserious to concern himself with fictional people marrying one another. He's reading Emma by Jane Austen, but there it is, literature moves him. It suggests to Connell that the same imagination he uses as a reader is necessary to understand real people also, and to be intimate with them. Loved it. And then in contrast, like in Marianne's social circle, which is much more makes up a lot more material wealth, they come to literature, maybe not Marianne so much, but they come to literature as class performance. And there's so much about that as well. It was culture as class performance, literature fetishized for its ability to take educated people on false emotional journeys so that they might afterward feel superior to the uneducated people whose emotional journeys they like to read about. Much of this is about money and capitalism, and it's really done in a way that is just like, oh my god, like this is control, like it I was obsessed with it. And I know that these are themes I think that she explores in her later novels, if I'm not mistaken, but wow. So I really liked all the talk about literature, and then of course this being a piece of literature, it just adds this like kind of meta feeling to it. There's so much about composition, and Connell is just really going on this artistic journey throughout Normal People, and that ended up being the thing that I most found value and comfort and such great nuance and insight into, was like Connell's literary journey. The relationship between Connell and Marianne, I don't want to talk too much about because I don't want to get into spoiler territory, but god, you know when you just want to shake? You know when you just want to shake people, but at the same time you understand why they're acting the way they're acting perfectly, and so you feel that even if you were to shake them, no apples would fall from the tree. You know, they would all stay clutching their little branches and they wouldn't go anywhere and nothing would change. That's how this felt. That's how this felt a lot. So I really am so happy that I finally read this book. I wasn't sure whether I wanted to read it. Again, this is another one I picked up only because of you guys. So thank you so much, because I really did get a lot out of this, and this is a book that I will definitely reread, not anytime soon, because the wash of feelings and the upsetty spaghetti inherent in Normal People is a lot and very powerful. And I think that's one of the reasons why I was like, no, I don't want to get into this, because if I let myself sink into these feelings, I'm just not going to feel very well. So it is a very powerful novel as well. Oh damn, this is how I used to feel sitting at my desk in high school. Marianne had the sense that her real life was happening somewhere very far away, happening without her. and she didn't know if she would ever find out where it was and become part of it. She had that feeling in school often, but it wasn't accompanied by any specific images of what the real life might look like or feel like. All she knew was that when it started, she wouldn't need to imagine it anymore. Yeah, I don't know at the end what I want to rate this. I feel like maybe, like I said, I would have given it 5 stars before, but now I'm feeling like maybe a 4. I think maybe just a 4. So that is Normal People. But again, really enjoyed my time with that. Okay, and then I only have one more book to talk to you about, and I already put out a whole hour and like 10-minute vlog about this, but it's The Magic Mountain. It's The Magic Mountain by Thomas Mann. I actually have not been able to stop thinking about this one since finishing it, and again, this is another book that I feel like I'm gonna have to like rate together with you here right now because I don't know what to think about it. It was the first book for 2025 of the Game of Tomes book club. So this year we're taking, there's so much hair in my mouth. Here we're taking 3 months to read each big book because it's just, you know, takes a little bit of pressure off of everyone, I think. This one I fought with, I struggled with. I was incredibly devoted to this book, would defend it to death, probably up until the 350, 400 page mark. And then I got a little tired. I didn't even really know what it was about too much before going into it. It is about a tuberculosis sanatorium up in the Swiss Alps. And we have this young man, Hans, and he's gonna go visit his cousin who is up there staying at the resort, trying to get better, trying to engage in the rest cure and trying to cure himself. So Hans is like, I'm gonna go see my cousin. I'm like kind of a full-fledged adult now, and before I start working full-time, I'm just gonna go visit him for a 3-week getaway. A 3-week getaway in the Swiss Alps, 3 weeks only, no longer. Definitely no longer, just 3 weeks. Perfect length of time. Anyway, he's not there for 3 weeks. He's there for a little bit longer. So this follows Hans just like exploring, seeing, understanding the way of life that occurs up at the tuberculosis sanatorium, and him meeting all the other patients. And it's really about ill health. Not, again, this one is also talking to normal people. This one's actually really talking a lot to normal people. I love when the books make good friends and start talking to each other. It's great. This is Thomas Mann's diagnosis, I think is a better word. It's his diagnosis of European society, really pre-World War I, like just on the cusp of the First World War, and his take on like what the hell's going on with society. So the sanatorium full of sick people, ruled over by a doctor who himself is sick, is the picture of the society. So you can kind of see what you're getting into there. I just really liked reading about, frankly, the sanatorium itself. As a reader, found so much more enjoyment in just reading about Hans going about his life up at the sanatorium, because I really am just find it so incredibly interesting, and I'm so fascinated by that kind of thing. I really love reading about illness in literature. That's one of my favorite topics, and I just found it so cool to follow a main character who is just like, oh, maybe I'm sick, maybe it's me, maybe I'm tubercular. That being said, this is a tome, and it does get a little bit tomish. Huge discussions in here, like I was saying before, about time and the nature of time and history, and just being a little bit sleepy in the face of your own day and age, I think. And the ending got me. I wasn't expecting to bawl my eyes out at The Magic Mountain, but you can bet your buttons that I did. This is a very memorable book with so many memorable characters, pretty large cast, just so much about, oh God, history. And there's even some glaciers thrown in here and there, so obviously I was pretty partial to that. Kind of want to give it that 5-star, but at the same time I know that it's missing like a little bit of the pizzazz that would make it fully a 5-star read for me, unfortunately. So I don't know, I think maybe a 4.5. I think if it was edited, I read somewhere that like Thomas Mann didn't really edit and just wrote and didn't know where it was going, and so this leaves you with like some gorgeous passages, some really memorable scenes. It's also really funny in places, but this also leaves you with like huge chunks of the book where you're like, where are we, what is happening, why is this chapter necessary, why are we even here, I'm tired. And then the ending, though, I've never seen an ending hit so hard. Absolutely stuck the landing. This is the plane, kiss the runway, just like you're kissing your sister.
Just a little peck, a smooch like you're kissing your sister.
Such a literally perfect ending. Hit so hard. I burst into tears. Fantastic. So that is The Magic Mountain. Overall, I'm really glad I read this one. Again, this is a book that you guys, like, I just want to say thank you. I just want to say thank you so much. I love talking about books with you, but like when you tell me about books that you're like, hey, Emma, you should read this, that's really special to me, and that means a lot to me. And this is a book that you guys are obviously like, hey, you're probably gonna love this because it is a hotel. Let's not delude ourselves. This is a money-making hotel, tuberculosis sanatorium up in the mountains, snow, glaciers, the like. Thank you so much, because I obviously enjoyed it immensely. And yeah, if you want to check out the blog, it's up there. There are massive spoilers in it. That is it for The Magic Mountain and Life's Delicate Child. Hans. Oh my god. If you can, please tell me your favorite book of the month of March, because like a lot of times what you enjoy ends up being what I enjoy. That is everything, I think, weary traveler. I hope you enjoyed your tea. I know mine was quite good. I'll see you guys very soon back at the Book Nook. Thank you for being here. Thank you for making your way through the winding forest to this little bookish realm, to the realm of my books. And I'll see you guys very soon. So, ciao.